Okay, now let's move to the next element, the stakeholders activity. So you note in the every social conflict, each stakeholder, the company, the governments, and the communities are doing some specific activities or behaviors. Sometimes they are doing things wrong, adding more fire to the conflicts, and sometimes they are doing things right, helping to cool things down. So when we analyze these actions from two perspectives, the first, conflict escalation. So do we need to discover what activities they perform, and in the conflict resolution, when actions help build peace and cooperation. So these actions are what we call activities or stakeholders activities, and they can either make the conflict escalates or decrease depending on how the stakeholders behave. So when we look at the prompts inside these elements, we can identify four types of activities, each with a specific value. So let's take a closer look at each one in the next slide. Okay, after defining the mapping of stakeholders, now let's take a look at the stakeholders activities. So as you see here, the prompt has different type of activity. The first is fail or illegal activity. It has a value of 0. Corrected activity has a value of 1. Prevented activity has a value of 2. And preventing and proactive activities has a value of 3. So let's start with the failed or illegal activities. So these are the oops moments when actions or lack of them makes the conflicts worse or escalates. Imagine that the company does the following examples of illegal activities or failed activities. So the company fails to listen to the community. This is a wrong mistake. Or the company hides information or not be transparent about environmental results. Or maybe the company uses the community land without asking for permission, or maybe the company doesn't pay the compensation that was promised to the community. These are failed activities. If the company keeps doing these kind of actions, the social conflict escalates, like you see here in the red line. So the red line represents failed activities repeated over time, and it shows how the intensity of the conflict increases. So how to avoid this, how to start solving this? So let's go to the next activity, the corrected activity that has value of 1. So corrected activities is the opposite of the illegal or failed activities. Here, the company is willing to fix the problem, fixing the problems. Maybe the company is forced to see the problems, or maybe the company is willing to fix the problem by itself. Here, the company starts listening the community, keeping promise, paying compensation as it was promised. So also the company start negotiation with the communities to rebuild trust and move forward together with the community. It's like saying, okay, we learned our lesson. Now let's make things right. Okay, with this type of activity, the conflict begins to decrease in intensity. Here they start the negotiations. This is parties start sitting at the negotiation table, listening to each other, and maybe reach agreements. Okay, but also we had better activities. This is preventing activities. Preventing activities has a value of 2. This is preventing troubles before it starts. Preventing troubles before they start. So, for example, in order to avoid troubles with the community, they can create environmental monitoring committees with the community. And when the community and the company participate together in the monitoring the environments. Also, they can prevent social conflicts with creating funds to support development projects or setting up development tables with community leaders and local authorities, doing stakeholders mapping, perception studies, and also social political analysis around the company in different communities. So these parties are communicating, anticipating problems, and keeping relationships healthy. This is a very, very good activity, preventing activity. However, there is another activity. This is proactive activity. So this is the top tier behavior. Here, because the company goes beyond prevention to build peace and progress. For example, the company is strengthening the capacity of public officials. You know, some municipalities staff don't know how to make projects. Maybe the company helps or strengthens the capacity of public officials, or maybe the company trains or empower community leaders, supports the formation of social organizations, or diversify the economy of the community, for example, through tourism, agriculture, fisheries, livestock, commerce, etc. So participating in development tables where the municipality or the government leads to the change. These are the actions that make everything better. Here, this is the best activities to be proactive, to empower community leaders. So, and with this proactive, we will say that the intensity of the conflict is almost zero. So now, additionally, we have neutral activities. These activities that neither help nor harm the conflict. They simply keep things steady. Gathering information without action on it. This is a neutral activity. Attending meetings only as observer is also a neutral activity. Or maintaining routine operations without engaging in dialogue is neutral activities. Okay, now let's go with some examples. Before an example, we have something important to clarify about actions and reactions in a conflict, because this distinction is very important. For example, when someone takes a harmful action, their graph, the curve begins with failed actions or failed activities. And the party that receives the impacts start with the corrected activities, showing the effort to demand justice. For example, imagine that the two main parties, the company here on one side, and the community on the other side. Suppose that the company takes a harmful action or a failed activity, for instance, using the community land without permission. So it means that the company curve starts with the failed activities. The company graph, the curve starts with the failed actions. So the harmful step they took. The curve goes up as the conflict escalates, then start decreasing once the company finally reacts, talks with the community, and begins corrective actions. Later, the company moves into the preventing and maybe proactive actions, trying to show they are not the neighborhood villains anymore. But at the same time, in the community graph, you see here, the curve starts with a corrective reaction, asking for the actions to be corrected or compensated. So if the company ignores the complaints, the conflict escalates further, sometimes pushing the community into failed activities themselves, like blocking roads or staging protests. After that, the community participates in negotiation and engage in preventing and proactive activities, helping rebuild trust and cooperations. So it could happen, of course, this is an example, it could happen the other way around, where the community start with the fail activities, and the company reacts with the corrected activities. It doesn't matter. This is only an example. So keep in mind that these two activities happen simultaneously. If somebody make a mistake, it could start with fail activities, but at the same time, the other party who received the mistakes start with the corrected activities. If the conflict escalates, maybe the curve goes to the crisis, and after that, they start fixing with corrected activities, and better preventing troubles or preventing conflicts, and better empowering the community. These are the main activities. Now let's go to the next slide. From here on, you can see examples of each type of activity for both the community and the company. So I'm not going to take too much time. I prefer that you take a picture or download the document in these websites and see different activities in the following slides. Here you can see corrective activities, preventing activities for community and for the company, finally preventing and proactive activities. You will see many of them. Okay, let's put in practice what we have learned so far in this example, land compensation. Here we have the company. Imagine that the company is in the exploration stage, located near to the community, and the community is far from the main city. So at first, the company doesn't engage with the community because they think that it's not important, social issues is not important here. They focus on the projects. But what happens? The community faces accessibility issues. It means no proper roads exist, making it hard for the company to move equipment and personnel. With that context, the company decides to build a new access road on community land without permissions. Of course, the community complains, but the company ignores the complaints. Additionally, the mayor of the local government wants the company to participate in community development, but the company prefers to focus only on the project, not on social programs. So additionally, the NGO participate giving legal assistance so the community can seek compensation for the land. Unfortunately, the company still ignores the complaints, and the community escalates further by blocking roads and demanding the company compensate for the land and invest in social projects. So this is the context. Now let's represent this conflict in the ASEC tool in the next slide. So if you want to have the social conflict description, you can read carefully the information given here. Take a picture and analyze the social conflict description in detail. Okay, now let's use this information to represent the social conflict in the ASEC tool. Okay, let's represent the social conflict in the ASEC tool. Here you have the ASEC tool partially. We have the project element, the company and governments element, the community element, and the stakeholders element. Okay, let's start, but remember that we have to split the social conflict analysis in two stages. The red line is the social conflict escalation stage, and the blue line is the conflict resolution stage. And we have the project name, the objective, and the components that generate or resolve the conflict. So generates is because we have to use only one information regarding the red line or the blue line. So let's start. The project name is a mining project in Australia. The company's objective is to open a gold mine in the Gulf East region, and the components that generates the conflict, because we are in the red line, where two, the companies have used the community land without permission, and the company has lack of community engagement. So let's go to the companies and the government's positions and interests. So remember that the company is always there because this ASEC tool is to analyze social conflict in the extractive industry. So here we have the company. The company is always neutral, always neutral. It has a value N neutral, and the interest is open a new mining project. Another stakeholder is the local government. The mayor is in the social conflict description. And the position is negative because the mayor is against the project. And the local government has a value of 1 because, as you see here, is the 1. The interest is the mayor wants the company to invest in social projects. Okay, let's go to the community's position, interest, and location. So the first is the community. The community is against the company. The position is negative, it's against the company, but the value is 1 because this community is in the area of influence. So we have -1 for the community. And the interest is the community asks for compensation and better engagement. Okay, additionally, we have an NGO. NGO is always neutral or 0 because this is a social organization that is part of the community. That's why we have, it's not a community itself. It's not a community itself. It is a social organization that belongs to the community. So that's why we have neutral value. Support the community with legal assistance. Okay, let's jump to the next element, stakeholders activity. Remember that we have 0 for failed activities or illegal activities, 1 for corrective activities, 2 for preventive activities, 3 for preventing and proactive activities, and also neutral activities, no value. So let's start with the company's activities. Remember that the company's activities have performed failed activities because the company doesn't respect the community's property rights and the company doesn't address to the community's complaints. So unfortunately, the company has failed performing these activities. And let's go to the local government activity. So the local government activity is, if you analyze, it is a correct activity. They ask for the company's investment in social projects because the company has lack community engagement, and the local government or the mayor asks for companies' investment in social projects. This is a try to find or to improve the community engagement. Let's go to the community's activity. What were the community's activities? So firstly, the corrected activity, the community performs a corrected activity when the community members submitted complaints through the company's grievance mechanism. It was a corrected activity and it has a value of 1. However, the company ignores the complaints and the community members groups and block roads. This is a failed activity or illegal activity, and it has a value of 0. So this is a process. the community perform first a corrected activity, and after that, a failed activity. This is a process. And then let's go to the NGO. NGO provides guidance on land rights and legal procedures, and it has a neutral value. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, let's remember that we have split the analysis in two. This part is the solution description, or the conflict resolution description. So let's read together. So after all the tensions and roadblocks drama, things finally start to change. The company is forced to go to the negotiation table, not exactly by choice, but because the situation leaves them no other option. At the table, progress begins. So the companies compensate the community for the land it used without permission. Then it takes a step further and invests in community development, realizing it's cheaper to build trust than rebuild blocked roads. So the company even partners with the local government to fund social projects, such as education, infrastructure, and public services. The local government also provides additional funding to complement the social projects. So on the other hand, the community participates actively in the social projects to help prioritize them and supervise their implementation. Additionally, the NGO continues to provide legal assistance, helping the community understand contracts, agreements, and their legal implications. So let's represent this stage in a separated ASEC tool. Okay, let's represent the social resolution stage in a new ASEC tool. So we have the project name. This is a mining project in Australia. The company's objective is to improve relationship with the community, and the components that resolve the conflict were two. The first is compensation. The company is willing to pay compensation for the land it used in the conflict escalation stage, and also the company is willing to invest in social projects. Now let's do the stakeholders mapping. Remember, during the conflict resolution stage, the stakeholders mapping may differ from the conflict escalation stage. This means that some stakeholders may remain involved, some may not longer participate, and new stakeholders may emerge here. Because remember that this is a different moment in the conflict. Some stakeholders continue to be relevant, some step out of the process, and new ones can be identified. According to the information given, in this case, we have the same stakeholders as we had in the conflict escalation stage. So the company position is always neutral, and the company's interest is improve the relationship with the community. The local government is in favor to negotiate social investment with the company. So the mayor is in favor, is a positive, and local government has a value of 1. This is positive 1. And the government's interest is gets the company's investment in social projects. Let's go to the community's position, interests, and locations. So the community is inside in the area of influence, so it has a value of 1. But in this case, the community is in favor, the company pays compensation. So the community is in favor, positive, and location is inside the area of influence. So that's why the community has +1 value. In favor and participate in the negotiation table. Additionally, we have an NGO. NGO, because this NGO is support the community with legal assistance and has a neutral value. Now let's go to the stakeholders activity for each stakeholder. The companies has performed two main activities. A corrected activities has a value of 1 because the company corrects its mistake and pay compensation for the land. After that, the company performed preventing activities, investing in social projects. This is a preventing activities because the community had many needs to be covered, so the company is covering or satisfying the community's needs. This is prevention. So that's why this is a preventing activity. Let's go to the local government activities. The local government activities also has performed preventing activities because it has a partnership with a company to invest in social projects. Let's go to the community's activities. The community's activities also has a value of 2, preventing activities, because the community participates, or community members participate actively in social projects to help prioritize and supervise their implementations. And what about NGO activities? NGO is always neutral activities. They also support the community with contracts, to monitor contracts, to train about how to manage contracts. Okay, now let's go to the next slide.